Hello, Teresa here, and welcome to another episode of CMYK Play. Each week in this series, we'll be experimenting, exploring, creating colors using the primary color CMYK. C standing for cyan, M standing for magenta, Y standing for yellow, and K standing for black. I will be using stock mixtures, powdered mixtures, and occasionally, if necessary, a combination of the two. This week, we are exploring a rose pink color. Everything you need to know about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and what form I'm doing it in will be located in the description box below. These experiments are done using 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon sock yarn. Please keep in mind that there is not a right or a wrong way to do this. These are my experiments and how I'm doing. There are many things that can change the outcome of your experiments if you try this at home. Namely being if your water is more or less acidic than mine, if you use a different dye, or you use a different yarn. I encourage you to take this information and use it as a jumping off point for your own experiment. Let's go to past me in the dye studio and dye up some rose pink. Hello and welcome to another episode of CMYK Play. Today we are going to be working on creating a rose pink color. For today's episode, this is episode number 6, I am going to try dabbling in the dry dye powders. So today we are going to be using magenta, yellow, the brilliant yellow, and the true black from Dharma. And I have the scale I use, I've been through many since I started dyeing. This is a Fusion scale. And the scale you want to use is 3 zeros after the decimal point. So you can do very, very specific measurements. So the CMYK values that I found online are 40% magenta, 30% yellow, and 30% black. So we're going to start with those figures and then adjust them once we see what that creates. So I am going to put my mask on since we're dealing with dry powders, so it might be a little difficult to hear me for a few minutes. So once I get the powder mixed with water, I'll take the mask off. Okay, so mask is on. And we are going to get to measuring. So I use these little pieces. I just tear aluminum foil into small pieces and then fold them. And that's what I use to measure out dye powder on. So I'm going to start with 0.4 grams of magenta. And the thing about the scale is any little wind makes, there we go, because it's 90 degrees where I live right now, I have to have the garage door open. Otherwise I will suffocate, and any little wind blowing definitely interferes with the scale. So I need to wait a minute for the wind to chill out. And we're going to do 0.3 of true black, 0.30 of true black. True black is a real heavy dye. Okay. So attempt 1 was 0.40, 0.30, and 0.30. So now we're gonna mix this up and take a look and see what it looks like. We mix this up with hot water. And as usual, there's in the pots there will be no citric acid. In the dye there will be no citric acid. We will add the citric acid to the water once the heat starts to rise in the pot to ensure even coverage and to get as solid as a color as we possibly can. Ooh, that is a very dark brown color, rosy brown color for sure. Let's see here, what else are we missing? So let's take a peek with our paper towel test and see what that looks like. It's definitely a very dark, rich color. It's almost reminds me of a burgundy. But we're gonna go with it for the first attempt because we want to see what this looks like on the yarn, and then we can make adjustments for our second and third attempt. So let's head on over to the pots. I'll see you there to get started with attempt number 1. Okay, so we're at the pot. We're going to, I took my face mask off now that the dye is mixed, and here we go with attempt number 1. Now it just looks burgundy on the paper towel. It may not actually be the case on the yarn. I said in previous videos that the paper towel test isn't like 100%. It just gives you a good indicator that you're in the right direction. We're going to give this a stir. And we are going to light her up. Get her going with the heat. This burner takes a little bit longer to heat up than the other side. And let's get our skein. As always in these experiments, I'm using 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, which is my fuzzy fingering base. It's a typical sock yarn. That's pretty. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue stirring this until I feel a little bit of heat in the pot, and then I will be back with you to add the citric acid. So this mixture made a very, very dark, I'm gonna say that's almost burgundy. So we need to really cut back on all the dyes. But for now, till we start attempt number 2, I'm gonna add the citric acid because I'm feeling a considerable amount of heat. I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons of citric acid. I'm going to go ahead and mix that up. It's super dark. So we're going to back off, way off, the black especially. So I will continue to stir that. But let's head back to the mixing table and work on attempt number 2. So for attempt number 1, we did 0.40 of magenta, 0.30 of yellow, and 0.30 of black. And I am going to cut way back on. I'm going to cut everything in half and see what that looks like. I may even back more off. Instead of 0.15 for the black, I might do 0.10. So I'm going to put my mask on and start measuring out our second attempt. So for attempt number 2, I'm going to do 0.2 of the magenta. Point 15 of the yellow. That's 0.15. And I think I am gonna go 0.1 of the black. So attempt 2 of the magenta was 0.2, the yellow was 0.15, and the black we're doing 0.10. Sweating so bad it's like dripping down into my eyes. So let's mix this up. Alright, let's check it with the paper towel and see what it looks like. So this is attempt 2. It's definitely a lot lighter than attempt 1. So I'm going to go ahead and do this second attempt. So I will meet you over at the pots. I'm going to take off this mask. I'll meet you over at the pots to see what mixture number 2 looks like. Here we are with attempt number 2. Do another quick paper towel test now that it's really diluted. Oh yeah, that is definitely a rosier color. Let's get our skein and get started here. This is definitely a lighter color than attempt number 1. So I am going to go ahead and stir this around to get good saturation, and I will be back as soon as I feel some heat in the water to put citric acid in and see where we're at with attempt 2 and play around with attempt 3. Alright, and we're back. So this mixture is definitely closer to that picture. I'm starting to feel some heat in the water, so I'm going to grab the citric acid and we're going to add 2 tablespoons of citric acid. So I've added my citric acid. I'm gonna give it a little stir. And so while this is setting, we're gonna move back to the mixing table and go for attempt number 3. All right, so for attempt number 3, I like the shade that we got with attempt number 2, but I want to see if we can still go lighter yet with it. So I'm going to split it in half again for attempt number 3. So for attempt number 2, we did 0.2 with magenta, yellow was 0.15, and black was 0.10. So I'm gonna cut it down to magenta, 0.10. 0.15 is not easily divided in half, so I'm gonna do 0.7. And then black, we're gonna do 0.07 and 0.05. So it'll be 0.10, 0.07, and 0.05 for attempt number 3. Grab my mask. Because I like the way that number 2 looks, but I still think it could be a little lighter. So we're gonna go ahead and mix up attempt number 3. Now, if I was doing this, I probably would just, like normally, I would probably just add a second skein into attempt number 2, which would effectively cut it in half. But for the purposes of this tutorial, sorry, the wind is kind of messing with the scale. Alright, so we have 0.10 of magenta. We're going to do 0.07 of the yellow. I'm sorry, 0.07. And then we're going to do 0.5 of the black. I'm sorry, 0.05. .5 of the black, 0.05 of the black. All right, now we're going to mix it up. Measuring out really small numbers like that can be kind of challenging, which is definitely why under normal circumstances I would have just added 2 skeins to the second attempt. But for learning purposes, I want to show you 2 things really. How to get a really light shade, and also show you how little dye it takes to actually get a good color. So that is what it looks like on the paper towel. This is attempt 2, attempt 3. So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna go over to the pots with this. Here we are. I'm gonna go ahead and put our attempt number 3 into the pot. Let's get our skein. It's definitely a lighter, but all the dye has to soak in. So I'm going to go ahead and stir this until I feel some heat in the water, and then I will be back with you to add the citric acid in. Okay, so we are back. I'm starting to feel some heat in the pot, but I just want to show you this. That actually might be the closest, to be honest. But we'll have to wait to see until they're washed and dried. So let's add that citric acid in. 2 tablespoons. So I'm gonna stir this around. I'm gonna run all these till they are set, and I will see you back with present me to show you how they turned out. And welcome back. That was the first time we've tried mixing dye powders, so it was a lot of fun. Here are how they turned out. So this is attempt number 1. Attempt number 1 was 0.40 of magenta, 0.30 of yellow, and 0.30 of black, which made a really dark pinkish red color. Not close at all to what we were going for, but very pretty. It almost reminds me of a maroon, but that is attempt number 1. Attempt number 2 was, excuse me, attempt number 2 was 0.20 of magenta, 0.15 of yellow, and 0.10 of black. Attempt number 2, in attempt number 2 and attempt number 3, basically what I did was I split attempt number 2's figures in half, which I think that both are a rosy pink. This is probably more of a mauve. But with attempt number 2, what I would have done, like normally, if it wasn't like a teaching situation, I would have just put 2 skeins in attempt number 2's figures, because the trouble that you run into is with the really small numbers. So attempt number 3 was 0.10 of magenta, 0.07 of yellow, and 0.05 of black. With the very small figures, like the 0.0, like 0.07, 0.05, it's really hard to get an accurate measurement with those little tiny bits of dye. So attempt number 3, I split attempt number 2 in half, so it's just a lot easier to put 2 skeins in the water to get a lighter shade. So I am very happy with the outcomes of this dye session. Like I said, I think probably attempt number 3 is closest to the picture that I was working off of. But let me know in the comments what you think. Did you think 2 or attempt number 3 got closer? All 3 of these skeins will be available on my website when this airs, so you can purchase any of them or all of them if your heart's desire. I can also do larger quantities. Back ordering will be open. If you're interested in any of these colors on a different base, just go ahead and fill out the contact form, or you can email me at cmykplay@gmail.com, and I will be happy to get that underway for you. So thank you for tuning in today. Next week we'll be working with dye powders as well. The colorway will be sage, a sage color that we're trying to get. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And say hi in the comments because I also like to hear from you guys. Anyway, till next time, happy dyeing.